What's up, everyone? It's Dave Walls from the Medal of Honor channel, and it's time to do another episode of 6 Records. Today we're doing 6 great solo albums. Now these are all musicians who either came out of a great band or will be going into a great band, or maybe just taking a break from their band. So this is, again, as always, I always try to make this clear, it's not the greatest solo albums ever, okay? These are just albums from my collection. I'm just pulling out and giving you 6 great ones, and hopefully in the comments you'll give me 6 more great ones. There's tons of bands we could cover, and musicians that came out of bands. You know, all the 4 Kiss members have done solo albums. You know, Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden. There's just tons and tons of people, and of course we can't get to them all, but these ones are just some that I just wanted to bring up. So without further ado, let's do this. 6 great solo albums. Up first, let's get some hard rock from the Red Rocker. This is Sammy Hagar and Standing Hampton. Of course, Sammy Hagar, you know, he kind of came out of Montrose, that's where he started, and then went on to do a fairly successful solo career before joining Van Halen, and then more solo and all that. But anyway, this was his 6th studio album. It was the first one on Geffen Records, and it's got a lot of big hits here. The best one, of course, is There's Only One Way to Rock. And that one, I mean, even today, the guitars are so big and heavy and crunchy. But it's also got Babies on Fire in it. It's got heavy metal on it, which there's 2 different versions. There's a soundtrack version and there's one on this album. And so anyway, it's got that on here. Just a lot of really great stuff. So this one came out in 1982, and yeah, a few years later he'd be joining Van Halen. Interesting thing though, the album is basically Standing Hampton is a boner. I guess Sammy found out that the Cockney word for penis is Hampton. And so if it's Standing Hampton, then it's a boner. So anyway, not sure why I called it that, but there you go. Number 6, Sammy Hagar, Standing Hampton. Number 5 is a new one. It's Dee Snider with Leave a Scar. I just discussed this not too long ago. I did some reviews, and this is an awesome album. Now, we all know Dee Snider from Twisted Sister, of course, is where he got famous. I mean, it's one ugly dude, you know, especially when you see him in the Twisted Sister makeup. I mean, this is definitely much better. But he kind of got well known in the 80s for that crazy look. It really paid off for him. And he was one of the guys who really led the charge in standing up against the PMRC, which didn't really help. They still put the stickers on the albums. But anyway, but he did you know, lead the good fight there, and still does so. And he is always outreaching for other metal bands, and in fact included. Well, Jamie Josta of Hatebreed, of course, helped work on this album with him, helped him produce it, and does a lot of background chants and stuff like that. But they also got Corpse Grinder, George Fisher, to sing on the song Time to Choose. So definitely a kick-ass new album from Dee Snider. So yeah, there you go. Number 5, Dee Snider, Leave a Scar. At number 4, you've heard me talk about him many times before, always calling him a musical genius. It is Ihsahn with Das Seelenbrechen. Now, Ihsahn was the front man for Emperor, a very well-known black metal band from, you know, back in the beginnings of black metal, actually. And you know, I really do believe this guy is a genius. He has several different projects always going. He even does one band with his wife. He's got several that he started back in the day, but these days this is his main focus. Emperor, of course, every now and then you still get an Emperor show. Every couple of years, some kick-ass concert over in Europe somewhere has Emperor headlining, and I don't get to see it. I did get to see them one time in Chicago, actually. But anyway, when it comes to Ihsahn's solo music, it's really great stuff. He's very experimental. He tries to always make things a little bit different on each album. You can really hear his King Diamond influence in his solo stuff. Not only you know, in his operatic falsetto voice that he does on occasion, but also when he does his like kind of croaky, scratchy voice, you can actually kind of hear it in that as well. Also, the great thing about Ishan's music is, as far as his solo stuff, it's very progressive, which you would expect. If you're a fucking genius, like I keep claiming, you got to be somewhat progressive, right? The man is a composer. He sings, he plays guitar, he does all the keyboard arrangements. Awesome dude. If you're looking for something different, any of Ishan's albums, I think he started put them out in around 2006, and I think The Adversary was his first one that came out around then. But all of his solo stuff, really cool. So definitely check it out. Number 4, Ishan with Das Seelenbrechen. Number 3 is another one that I reviewed this year. It's also another 2021 release, and it is Jason Bieler. This is the Baron von Bielski Orchestra. So Jason Bieler, of course, I've mentioned this before, but he came from the band Saigon Kick. And on the first couple albums, which really were their biggest hit albums, he was the lead guitar player and he did accompanying vocals. He was not the lead vocalist, but then later on, by the third Saigon Kick album, he was doing the lead vocals, which actually, for me, was their better stuff. But yeah, huge influence on me and my musical writing styles, and super heavy guitars. And this album in particular had a lot of guest stars on it. I did a big review on it a couple months ago if you want to check it out. But this is a kick-ass album, one of my favorites of 2021, definitely. So number 3, Jason Bieler and the Baron von Bielski Orchestra. At number 2, I always got to find a way to work Russian somehow, so I'm going to go with Geddy Lee's My Favorite Headache. This one, not that easy to find on vinyl. It did get reissued though, so fortunately for me. And I actually think the original was on just CD. I think they reissued this one in 2019 on vinyl. Anyway, so excellent album. It is definitely maybe a little bit more rock than it is, the people think of Rush as, all the progressive stuff. But actually, in fact, the drums on this album were done by Matt Cameron, who is well known for being originally in Soundgarden and who's now in Pearl Jam. So, you got a rock drummer there, had more of a straightforward kind of vibe to it. It is very similar to what Rush kind of stuff sounded around that time. This came out in 2000, so it had a little bit thicker sound, getting back to that rock sound from the Caveman producing a lot of other stuff. But yeah, so this is very similar to that kind of stuff, like the Counterparts album, that sort of thing. Really cool album. Number 2, Geddy Lee, My Favorite Headache. All right, and for number 1, I had to bookend Van Halen singers. So let's go with number 1, David Lee Roth, Eat 'Em and Smile. This was an awesome album, especially at the time. So you got to remember, in 1985, those of us who were diehard Van Halen fans were waiting to see what's going to happen. We knew that a new David Lee Roth album was coming out. We knew that a new Van Halen album was coming out. And most of the diehard Van Halen fans at the time really sided with David Lee Roth. In fact, I think the movie Airheads even made a joke about it. So, he was just such a great frontman. And so this album, when it came out, really blew some minds. I mean, he had just an absolutely amazing band with him for this album. Steve Vai on guitar, Billy Sheehan on bass, Greg Bissonette on drums. Just a killer band. They were so good. And, this album did really well. Yankee Rose still holds its own. And I mean, there's a lot of great songs on here. Shy Boy was an awesome song. Going Crazy, Tobacco Road, Elephant Gun. These are all really good songs. Even That's Life was, that was a cool song. However, for me, some reason this one didn't hold up over time as well as 5150 did. This one, when it first came out, this one was my favorite over 5150, but not so much nowadays. I don't know why this one maybe just didn't, it was cool at the time, just not as much as far as the strength to last. I don't know why that is. It's still a great album, still worth noting. Number 1, David Lee Roth, Eat 'Em and Smile. All right, let's go through the countdown. Number 6, Sammy Hagar with Standing Hampton. Number 5, Dee Snider, Leave a Scar. Number 4, Ishan with Das Seelenbrechen. Number 3, Jason Bieler and the Baron von Bielski Orchestra. Number 2, Geddy Lee, My Favorite Headache. And the number 1 solo album, for this discussion anyway, David Lee Roth, Eat 'Em and Smile. That's my list, but you know, I'd like to hear what you think. So let me hear some more great albums by great vocalists who did their own thing for a little while. Anxious to hear that as always. I appreciate you watching. If you haven't done so, go ahead and please hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it. Until next time, keep the horns up, keep the needle down.